Coach Greg, and today I'm going to be watching Eric Kanevsky's new video saying Greg Doucette is not a real pro. And in the video, it also features the guy Baidi Farl. I know a little bit about this guy. He basically almost died, and apparently it was pneumonia, which he didn't think you could get at 26, and rhabdo, which he thought was a myth. Rhabdomyolysis, maybe I'm pronouncing it right. I did a video on Dana Lynn Bailey having had that. That's why blood work is done and they test creatine kinase, for example. I would say it's probably a lot more to do with the crazy abuse of steroids than just saying it was overtraining and led to this. A lot of people are commenting, probably thinking, well, why does he even bother responding to Eric's comments? The reason is because it's such a good teaching opportunity. When I used to be a school teacher, things would come up in class. You use that to educate and explain things. So maybe I wouldn't have talked about all these topics right now, but where it's out and where he's commenting on it and people will want to see it, it's the perfect opportunity for me to educate. Although I don't have to respond, I like to. It's enjoyable. I find his videos entertaining. I'm entertained. I'm not gonna watch a video that doesn't interest me. So as I'm watching his video, I'm laughing and it's funny to me and I'm making a response back, and I'm sure that at least a few people want to see it. So, you know, if you don't like it, just skip to the next one. I have 400 videos posted if you just don't want to watch about Eric. If you like it, if you like this, then watch it. I have tons of videos, but the point is, I do educational videos for the most part, and this is still educational because you're learning from other idiots' cycles. So I just watched part of this, and basically he starts by saying my voice sucks. Yeah, whatever, my voice sucks. If you don't want to listen to it, you don't have to listen to it. I can't change my genetics for my voice in the same way he can't change his shitty genetics. The other guy, he basically said, you know, he's a fan of mine, watches me on RX Muscle, watches me all the time, is cool, but he just doesn't agree with some of the things I say, which is, of course, normal. Who the heck is going to agree with everything I say? That would make no sense. If you agree with everything, then you're me. My girlfriend doesn't agree with half the shit that I say, so, I mean, come on. That's just normal. So his main pet peeve, Eric's main pet peeve, that he hates when I say that, well, all pros don't do this because I don't do this. Well, by definition, when he says all pros do this, it means all pros do this, and I'm one that doesn't. I've coached pros. I coached Ian Valère. He was in the Mr. Olympia. I coached Ian for 3 shows in a row in which he won overall 3 times in a row. And he did not use GH or insulin, and he won every single show and won overall, and he was 22 years old, and he looked better at 6 weeks out than Eric will ever look in his entire life, and that's 5 years from now, shredded with whatever drugs he wants to take. Ian 6 weeks out as an amateur would have beat Eric at his future best, for sure. Ian was shredded 6 weeks out. Why? Because he followed the plan and listened to the plan, and he was doing things right, not abusing drugs like Eric is. So when he says, you need to do this to be pro, to do this to be a real pro, Ian Valère's a real pro. He was 220 pounds or so, 5'9", 5'9.5", whatever, as a 22-year-old. That's called good genetics. I'm not saying he wouldn't have turned pro if I hadn't coached him. Of course he would have. He could have turned pro on his own. But it doesn't mean I didn't coach him. Doesn't mean I didn't help him. Doesn't mean he didn't eat popcorn. We ate popcorn way back then, everybody. We also ate PB2 and banana sandwiches. All the same shit that you see me eating now, we was eating back then. If you need to do a drug cycle like Eric's doing to get a pro card, once you get pro, you're gonna suck anyway. And by suck, I mean less good than me. At least I'm in the top 10 in shows, okay? At least I'm doing something. I'm not placing last. I'm not getting that tied for 16th or tied for 15th, didn't get a call out. I'm getting called out and I'm getting compared. I'm not amazing, but I'm half-ass. I'm in the middle somewhere. And the middle as a pro is, to me, better than not winning a local amateur show. That's just me. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. So he basically says, real pro. A real pro is like a top 10 in the Olympia. No one wants to aspire to be like a 212 guy. They want to be a top Olympian like Jay Cutler and so on. Just because you want to look like Jay Cutler or Ronnie Coleman or any freak of the most freakiest freaks of freaks doesn't mean that's what most people aspire to. Most people, in fact, aspire to be a men's physique pro. That would be most people want to look like that. The second most amount of people want to look like classic physique pros, like Chris Bumstead or Henri Pierre, guys with actual aesthetics, good genetics, and a shit ton of muscle. That's what most people want to look like. Then they want to look like 212 guys, and last they want to look like open men freaks. It's the hardest thing to get, the biggest bodies, but it's not the look that most people aspire to. That's it's just the facts. Most people don't want to look like Ronnie Coleman. Most freaky bodybuilders who are in open men, yes, they do. But the average guy that trains and, wants to get in shape would rather look like me than Ronnie Coleman. It's just fact. It's not like I'm a better bodybuilder than Ron. Obviously, I'm not even close. I'm not even as good as his left bicep, my whole body. But most people would rather have a normal, athletic-looking type of physique. One that can actually ride a bicycle, as he said in his video, that I ride bicycles, and so that makes me not a real pro because Jay Cutler wouldn't go and ride a bicycle. And it's like, most people would like to be able to ride a bicycle, go for a walk, and not have to almost die from contest prep. That's just most people. So he says there's too many pros. I agree with that. There's too many pros. Too many pro cards were given. And I'm the definition of too many pro cards. When you look it up in the dictionary, it comes up, Greg Doucette is why there's too many pro cards. I've been in the top 10 in several shows. So, for example, 3 years ago, I'm featured on Vice Media. There's a show that has, 1.5 million views or something. And they follow me competing. And I place 8th. And in 9th, we have John Meadows, who is a freak and is a widely respected bodybuilder and a fantastic bodybuilder. And I even placed ahead of him. If I'm so shitty, how could I beat John Meadows? If you're calling me shitty, you're calling every single pro that I beat shitty. That's what you're doing. So by insulting me, you're insulting a whole long list of other guys. And Boya Edwards was behind me. He's been in the Olympia. John Meadows was in the friggin' Arnold Classic. He's a monster. Now you're saying, well, you got top 10 this year. Well, yeah, in Classic. I downsized on purpose. I tried to get smaller. I did. I compete in a different division because I'm 43 and I want to actually live, I'm 43 years old. I'd like to be 93. That'd be great. Like my grandparents lived to be that old or more. That's just fantastic for me. People are saying I should coach him and he would do better. Well, of course he would do better. I'd be coaching him. Obviously he would. But he disagrees because I can't be coached by somebody smaller than me. I'm already bigger. I'm already bigger than Greg, so I have 100 pounds more muscle. So how could I learn anything from him? Does that not sound like the stupidest thing you've ever heard in your life? So you can only coach people smaller than you. Chris Aceto, for example, he can't coach any pros because he's not big. So Charles Glass, I didn't name a bunch of pro coaches. They all have to be bigger. Big Ramy should coach everybody in the world because he's the biggest bodybuilder. Does that make sense? Guess why you're bigger? You're taller. Guess who's bigger than me too? Guess. Anybody. Anybody that plays basketball in the NBA is bigger than me. Why? Because they're friggin' tall. If you came in ripped with less size, you can beat a bigger guy who's bigger than you but not as ripped. I was obviously never the biggest guy when I would win overalls weighing 150 pounds, beating guys like you weighing 250 pounds or 220 or whatever you'd weigh. You don't think I've ever beaten a heavyweight or a super heavyweight in overall? I've done it a dozen times because I was ripped. On condition. I wasn't as big, never was as big. I've never won a show because I was the big guy, ever. But I could win because I actually dieted hard, trained hard, and smart, knew what I was doing, and brought my own personal best package, despite being 5'6" and a quarter, whatever I am. Everyone knows that in pics you look better than on stage. Okay, I change it. I look better 6 weeks out on stage, not in a picture, on a stage, in a video, than you looked on stage at your best ever in a video, compared to my 6 weeks out. I'm not just a little bit better, Way better every single pose, way better, leaner in every pose, better in every pose, way better. Me, 6 weeks out, way better than you on stage. Me, right now, this second, way better than you on stage, and I'm on 140 milligrams of test and 140 milligrams of Primo, and that's it, and that's all I'm taking, and I train and I bike ride. I beat you right now, and you at your best. Easy, so easy. Just saying, I just speak the truth. I don't bullshit. I'm just calling it the way I see it. This part is awesome for me because they're just blown away at the fact that I'm saying, when I was natural, I could beat you. And they're like, oh my God, if he was that good natural, why did you ever take steroids? If you're that good natural to beat a super heavyweight when you're a middleweight or a lightweight, man, that's impressive. That's like crazy. Like, how is that possible? I'm like, man, these are great compliments because I did it a dozen times, guys. I already did it a dozen times. Bodybuilding is, quote, literally force feeding. So they're saying you have to force feed. Bullshit. That's not even true at all. You don't need to force feed. You need to force feed to get fat, to be above where your body wants you to be fat-wise, not muscle-wise. Gaining a shit ton of fat doesn't make you a better bodybuilder. It makes you a fatter bodybuilder. So, for example, when Eric's 307 pounds, force feeding to get huge, he could not force feed and be 267 pounds, so let's say 50 pounds lighter, and then when he diets, he won't have to do a crazy diet and lots of cardio, come in more shredded and actually win the show. Baidi, he's also too heavy in the off-season and he hasn't come in crispy because of the force feeding. That's what's holding you back. If you both hired me as a coach, all I'd have to do is say, guys, do whatever you're doing, just don't force feed in the off-season, get 5 pounds leaner even, and you'll be better. Boom. There's the $1,100 coaching package for you right there for free. Don't force feed in the off-season. You don't need to hire me anymore. Now, obviously, if you hire me, I can give you better supplement advice and all that stuff and make you live longer if you don't want to die and all that stuff. That's great. But just don't force feed and you'll be better. GH and insulin, saying you have to use it to bodybuild. Okay, you have to use GH for sure to be as big as you possibly could ever get. And insulin could help you get bigger, potentially, if done right and not abused, but it'll probably shorten your life as well. But here's the point I'm making. If you need to take that to turn pro, what will you then do when you're pro to get better? What are you going to do? If you're already on 330 IUs of insulin, like Eric, what are you going to do, 530? If you're already on 10 to 20 IUs of GH when you turn pro, what are you going to do? Take 20 to 40 IUs? Where do you go from there? When you're doing 5 grams of test, where do you go from there? What's the next cycle, 10 grams? If you can't get a pro card on a moderate cycle, like something that would not be considered redonkulous, you're not going to be able to improve as a pro. It's just not going to happen. They're saying, yeah, if you're 5'10", you got to be super heavyweight to do any good, blah, blah, blah. If you're even 5'10". Chris Bumstead is over 6 feet tall, like 6 feet and a half inch. And he turned pro at the North Americans, weighing about 225 pounds. If he were 5'10", he'd would have weighed around 210. He won North Americans. He's a freak. As a pro, he's not even, 228, 230? And he's redonkulous. Now, yeah, but he completes in Classic. If he stood on stage the way he looks in Classic, in an open show, he'd place top 5. I don't care what you say. Now, would he be top 5 in the Olympia at that size? No. But he would be top 5 in any kind of normal show, like the shows that qualify for the Olympia. He'd still beat half the pros in open, way more than half. 3/4 of the open pros he'd beat. You would for sure. So you don't need to be that big. Henri Pierre is 6'2", and at the Olympiad it was 220 something. He actually brought his A-game conditioning and looked redonkulous. Didn't have to weigh 260. He's like not even close to his classic physique limit. He can actually put on like 10 or 15 more pounds of muscle and still make classic. Think of how freaky he's going to be. He would beat 90% of the pros in open if he competed 15 pounds bigger. He'd probably win some open shows as a classic guy. Who else? George DeBull. George DeBull's winning classic shows, and if you look at him, if he competed in the 212 class, man, he's beating everyone's back. His legs might not quite be there, but he's certainly placing top 5. He's certainly killing it in the top 5, top 3, maybe winning some 212 shows. So you're saying this stuff, but it doesn't make any sense because you don't need to be a super heavyweight big guy to be able to compete. Now this I like. They're saying, we're going to be honest with you when we turn pro, and we're going to tell you what it took to get there, because no top pro ever gives their actual cycle. No top pro does. Only like pros like Greg who suck. So they're going to get a pro card and then be a top pro and tell you what it took to get there? I mean, are they that delusional that they think they're just going to be top pros now? Not just turn pro, a top pro. Then he says, oh, he talked about SARMs and how I could have used SARMs and what have you to improve myself. But that's just so stupid because, like, SARMs couldn't help me. Again, you don't know about SARMs. You don't know about things associated with SARMs. You haven't learned about all the other avenues. I'll just name a few things. GW501516, MK677 has learned about those things. Never thought that they'd be possible. They're not SARMs, but they're associated with it. And this is what I'm referring to. Just some of these items. And as far as, oh, well, what you took to turn pro, I have a freaking video on YouTube saying the cycle I used to turn pro. In detail, descriptive, start to finish. So whatever these guys want to do in 2 years when they get their pro cards. Now, mind you, Baidi could actually turn pro if he got ripped. So it's possible, but I've already done a post of this. And so to say, well, it's not a top pro, well, he's not a top pro either. Now, I know other pros, and I know pros placing in the top 3 and the top 5, and I know their cycles. And it's not what these guys are suggesting. It's not even close. It's not even halfway there. They couldn't even afford it. You can't just say all pros do this. When I say I don't, I'm saying I and most pros I speak to don't do anything even remotely close to that. They mentioned genetics and not having good genetics, and he has good genetics. And he makes a good point. This is something I agree with here. So he is able to take 300 milligrams of Anadrol. I mean, I can't just say it's not possible. It's possible. I mean, I can't, and his friend could only take 50. So maybe he does have superior genetics for absorbing and using anabolics so that he doesn't die. It's got to be. There's got to be a spectrum for everything. Some people take 500 milligrams of test and they'll get a heart attack. Some people do 5,000 and they won't get a heart attack. So yeah, I agree with him. He has very good genetics for being able to abuse steroids and not die. So that's awesome. It helps him because if he was dead, it would be hard to get a pro card. And then they wrap up the video saying they like my videos, that I'm entertaining, which is basically what it's all about. If I didn't do anything exciting or entertaining, how would you learn from me? You would be bored. If I was boring and just spoke and, you know, I'm going to use my deep, sexy voice because Eric doesn't like my high-pitched voice, so I'm going to speak in a different tone, then people wouldn't listen. Yeah, my voice sucks. It's just genetics. It's just like his body sucks. It's genetics. I can't fix it. I can't do a cycle of steroids and make my voice deep. It doesn't work like that, you know? I don't have the freak radio voice. I have the face made for video, not for radio. What can I do? You know? So, if you want to get coached by somebody who will probably kill you, Eric is your man. If you want to be coached by somebody who will try not to kill you and try to make you healthy, but maybe you won't be a jacked 290-pound monster at 6'4" at 23, then I'm your man. Visit my website, gregdoucette.com. Also, follow me on Instagram, Greg Doucette, IFBB Pro. And I'm going to bloop up some old videos here because, I mean, I must have brought up about 100 of them. So be sure to check one of them out. Well, I think you only bloop up one video. I have zero tech skills, so who knows? Anyway.